Hi, girls. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, and we are at the end of Module 5. If you were working online, then you would have finished the mission, which was lesson 40. If you didn't, no worries. That's what your packet work is for. So today we're going to be doing a Module 5 review. And in your packet, we're going to be doing a review of all the things that we've learned with fractions. So our first review question is multiple choice. Which fraction has the same value as 4 times 3/4? Now, I see that there's some answers that don't make sense. However, let's say I'm a person who doesn't see that. Well, I'm just going to solve each of these. First of all, 4 times 3/4. 4 times 3/4 is 12/4. My unit, I have fourths. I have 4 groups of 3/4. 12 times 3/4. Well, 12 times 3 is 36/4. Letter B, 12 times 3/8. 12 times 3, 36, but it's 36/8. 12 times 1/4. 12 times 1 is 12, so I have 12/4. And 12 times 1/16. 12 times 1/16 is 12/16. So which one has the same value? It is definitely letter C. Now, before I started this problem or started solving it, I said that I see 2 answers that wouldn't make sense. And those 2 answers would have been B and D. Because B is eighths, D is 16ths. We have fourths, so that one wouldn't have made sense. All right, let's do another problem. Our next set of problems we're going to be comparing. We're going to compare using the greater than, less than, or equal sign. So my first example is comparing mixed numbers, remembering that a mixed number has both a whole and a part. When I am comparing mixed numbers, the first thing I look at is the whole number. And when I look at this first example, I have 3 4/5, 4 1/4. 3 whole things versus 4 whole things. Well, 3 is less than 4, so that means 3 4/5 is less than 4 1/4. My next example, 3 4/5, 3 1/5. Well, when I look at the whole numbers, they are the same. So I have to think to myself, 4/5 versus 1/5. Well, it's apples to apples, 4 apples, 1 apple. 4 apples or 4/5 is more than 1 apple or 1/5. So 3 4/5 is greater than 3 1/5. Our last example in comparing. 2/3 versus 3/4. Is this apples to apples? No, the units are thirds and fourths, so I cannot compare them as they are. So I'm going to find the least common denominator. There it is. 2/3 is equal to 8/12. 3/4 is equal to 9/12. 8/12 is less than 9/12. So that means 2/3 is less than 3/4. Moving right along. So this next part of the review has to do with adding and subtracting fractions. And just like with comparing, I do want to make sure that it's apples to apples. So I look at my first example, 2/3 plus 2/3. Thirds to thirds. Looks good to me. So I'm just going to add my thirds or my apples. 2/3 plus 2/3 equals 4/3. That 4/3 is improper. That 4/3 is equal to 1 1/3. How did I get that? Well, I can divide. How many groups of 3 can I get from 4? 1 with a remainder of 1/3. Or I can use my number bond. There's the 1 whole that I took out with my extra 1/3. Next example is subtraction. 5/6 minus 2/6. Well, it's apples to apples, sixths to sixths. So if I have 5/6, you take 2 of them away. I'm going to have 3/6 left over. Next one, have some mixed numbers. 1 2/3 plus 3 2/3. And again, it's thirds to thirds, so I'm good. So I'm just going to add my whole numbers. 1 plus 3 is 4. I'm going to add my fractions. 2/3 plus 2/3 is 4/3. But I can't leave my answer like that, 4 4/3. I'm going to keep my 4. 4/3 is the same as 1 1/3, which gives me a final answer when I put it together of 5 1/3. Now to our next example. 2/3 plus 4/5. Thirds, fifths, not apples to apples. We have to find the least common denominator. Well, you might already know that the least common denominator for 3 and 5 is 15. 2/3 is equal to 10/15. 4/5 is equal to 12/15. And then 10/15 plus 12/15 gives me 22/15, which is an improper fraction. I pull out 15 of the 15ths. There are still 7 there. So my final answer, you can see it down there, 1 and 7/15. Sometimes when we subtract, we have to borrow because we don't have enough to subtract. Same with fractions. So in this example, I have 2 and 1/4 minus 1 and 3/4. And we're going to solve this 2 different ways. You pick the strategy that's better for you. I have 1/4 here. I don't have enough to take away 3. And that's what you have to ask yourself. Are there enough fourths to take away 3? And the answer is no. So I'm going to rewrite this mixed number. I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to rewrite it as 1 and 4/4. 1 and another 1 whole is 2. But then I still have this extra 1/4, which gives me 1 and 5/4. Now I have enough to take away. 1 minus 1 is nothing. 5 minus 3 is 2/4. So my final answer is 2/4. Now, another option or another strategy you can use is by changing the mixed numbers into improper fractions. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9/4, minus 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7/4, and 9/4 minus 7/4 is 2/4. We get the same exact answer. So you are going to pick what strategy is best for you. All right, here we are at the end of our review. Multiplying a whole number and a fraction, multiplying a whole number and a mixed number. So remember, when I multiply a whole number by a fraction, all I'm doing is multiplying that whole number times the numerator. And my answer is 12/5. That's improper. How many groups of 5 can I get from 12? I can get 2 with the remainder of 2. So my final answer is 2 and 2/5. Now this next one, I have to use the distributive property because it's not just 3 times 2, it's 3 times 2 and 2/7. So it's the 3 times the 2 and the 3 times the 2/7. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2/7 is 6/7. Which gives me a final answer of 6 and 6/7. So this officially brings us to the end of Module 5. From our fraction module, Tomorrow, we will be moving into decimals. Also remember that tomorrow we're going to be having our Zoom meeting to review your Module 5 problem set today that you'll be working on today. So I will see you tomorrow.